And if I didn't know any better, I would just be like, oh, that was a really cool tribute to these two guys and move on with my life. But a lot of people didn't realize that that was making up for two soldier statues that were previously on that same exact wall and were taken off of the wall completely, along with a lot of other things in the Veteran Services Center that were taken by Platoon 22 when they left the VSC. And that is pretty much all that I know for sure. The rest of it is a complete mystery to me and probably a lot of other people. So I wanted to come right to the source because I know you were there, A, for the beginning of Platoon 22, B, the start of the Veteran Service Center and the conception of the Veteran Service Center with Goodwill, and see the fallout of Platoon and what happened and where these statues are. So please tell us your side of this whole
There's
scenario,
no
if you will.
side. There's no side.
Okay. All
That's
right.
the hard stop.
I
Hard
like
stop.
that.
There's no side. Um, I was there. I created Platoon. I was the one that facilitated getting the silhouettes. I've got screenshots to back everything up that I'll say. A lot of folks know me for Soldier Fit. Platoon and that Veteran Services Center was my life's work. Hard stop. End of story. There is a hole in me that will never be filled for the rest of my life. With all that being said, anybody can go back and look through all my social. I walked away. I didn't say anything about Platoon. When Platoon and Reforge had a problem, I didn't say anything about that. When Platoon left Goodwill, I didn't say anything about that. I didn't speak up until a bald-faced lie was told and a promise was broken to two veterans' families. Hard stop. There's no debating it. The timeline for all this is very simple. And then I'm going to lay all this out, and then I'm going to say, let's do a logic test. Okay?
All right.
I reached out to the former executive director. I don't think she's no longer involved. I'm going to leave her name out just for the sake of it's not her fight, so I'm not bringing her in.
Right.
But I reached out to the former executive director of Mission 22. If anybody knows who Mission 22 is, they can look it up. I reached out. I've got the screenshot on Facebook where I initiated the conversation. I initiated the conversation originally because what they did was they built this memorial. Mission 22 was started by a former Delta Force soldier who used art therapy to help veterans. And so what they did was they created this beautiful memorial. I forget exactly where the memorial is off the top of my head. We could look it up and find it up, but you can go look at this memorial. And the way they created the memorial is they took, I think they're like 12 to 15 foot tall, solid steel plates, and they cut out silhouettes of 22 soldiers. Now, they left the steel plates in place. They removed the silhouettes. The memorial is built so that as the sun rises and sets, it casts 22 individual shadows a day to symbolize the 22 veterans that take their life.
Hmm.
Platoon was founded. I know because I founded it after Specialist Adam Richardson committed suicide, making him the second soldier in a relatively short period of time. Sergeant Tyler Moore was the first soldier that committed suicide. Adam Richardson was involved. Adam Richardson committed suicide on my bachelor party. We were in Virginia Beach. A mutual friend connected me with his brother, and I talked to his brother my entire bachelor party about coming back. We came back. I orchestrated a group to provide 24-hour vigil for Adam's remains at Stauffer Funeral Home. And then from there, at the request and permission from their family, when I was riding with the Desert Knights gave them a full motorcycle police escort from Stauffer Funeral Home to his final resting place.
Hmm.
90% of the people on the board of Platoon were not even on the board at this time. So we go through all this. Platoon, we do that. We continue to do all those things. We've always talked about Adam Richardson and Sergeant Tyler Moore. Everywhere we went with the 22 Memorial, this was, I've got the screenshots of the history from our website when that was on the website. I know because I wrote it. I put it up there. On a side note, their names have been removed from Platoon's website. There is no history of the where Platoon came from on the website. So fast forward to when we worked the deal with Goodwill to be able to get into the center. Now, let's be abundantly clear. I didn't speak on this before, but one of the things that people said, and I wish Goodwill would have spoke up about this, but they chose not to, was that the only thing I'll talk about the separation is that the separation was because Goodwill was greedy. The center would not exist if Goodwill didn't put up over $1 million to open it. Goodwill funds the entire operation. They pay the rent, they pay the utilities, all of it.
Mm-hmm.
It actually costs Goodwill more money to now run the center instead of Platoon because now they had to pay people to run the center. So anything else you want to see, we'll make that argument, but to say that they did it for greed or money is just absolutely absurd.
Mm-hmm.
So fast forward, I think it was by 2019, Mission 22 was taking the individual silhouettes and they were doing a road tour with it. So my initial conversation with them was, hey, we'd like you to bring the traveling memorial to us. Round about this time, COVID happens. And we had a conversation like, hey, I literally have it in blue and white writing. What would it cost for you to make one of those for us, two of those for us? Sarah goes, we'll just give you the two. We'll give you two that were actually cut out of the memorial. She also asked for the names of the service members that we're going to dedicate the plaques to. So there's an article coming out on Wednesday where Platoon goes, they were never dedicated, they were never meant to be for them. That's complete horseshit.
Mm.
So fast forward, all of this happens, he gets pushed because the opening of the center gets pushed.
Because of COVID, basically.
Because of COVID, build out, all of that.
Mm-hmm.
We finally get to the point where we can get it. Now, the third plan at this point in time was for us to ride up. We were going to get on our motorcycles, ride up, have one guy haul a trailer because these things are, I think, like 800 to 1,000 pounds. Like
Yeah,
they're
they're
solid
huge.
still, they're huge, right?
Yeah.
This is going to tie to another point in logic test. Originally, we were going to ride up, film the whole thing, use it to spread the message and awareness of both nonprofits. But then I forget what happened. We weren't able to do that. So then it became, okay, well, we'll get them delivered. Now, this is where the board, where really Nikki and Caleb enter the picture. We had to get approval for the funds to have them delivered. I literally say in blue and white to Sarah, I want to put them at the center. There's no twist to this. I wrote it. I said it. I have it in writing. I want to put them at the center. We get them there. There's a conversation about whether they're going to, Nikki and Caleb and us had, are we going to put them inside the center? Or originally we were going to put them outside. And then the other conversation was, well, we think we should move them inside because of A, B, C, and D. That's the equivalent. That's the stop of the conversation there, right? Now, we put them in the center. Now, the fact that this article is going to come out, and I don't know when are you going to release this?
Today.
today. Supposed to be an article coming out tomorrow. And to my understanding, in that article, it was said that these were never dedicated to Adam and Tyler. The argument is they were they were dedicated to two other soldiers originally. And that, first of all, nobody ever said that these were cut out for Adam and Tyler. No one has ever said that in their life, ever. The soldiers that they're dedicated, that they were cut out, that represent, those soldiers are at the Mission 22. Their name is up.
Mm-hmm.
The night of the dedication here for us, my entire speech was around this concept. And it's in the plaque. It says, it's been said that you die twice. Once on the day that you die, and again when your name is said for the last time. I made a promise on behalf of Platoon and Goodwill, as a representative for both, that these silhouettes would be in this building forever, so that their name would never die a second time. Now, all Platoon had to do was go read the plaque that we created. There's the plaque right there. Specialist Adam Richardson and Sergeant Tyler Moore. These two silhouettes represent two soldiers who lost their lives to suicide in Frederick County. Hard stop. It's on the plaque we paid for. So how was it not dedicated to them? Now,
Unreal.
I stayed out of everything, didn't get into it up until I heard that they were removing the statues. I called, and anyone can ask the family. All of this is so easily verifiable, it's not even funny.
Mm-hmm.
Call the family. But by the way, they've posted on my own post validating everything that I said.
Mm-hmm.
I
I'll put a
called
link to that post. I'll put a link to Danny's post in the bottom of this video too.
I called both family members individually. I said, hey, listen, Platoon is going to be exiting the center. I got no dog in this fight. What do you want? Do you want the silhouettes to go with Platoon, or do you want the silhouettes to stay in the center? They said, well, what are you doing? I said, I'm not in it. I'm not with either organization. I am only calling because of my promise made to you.
Right.
What do you want? And both of them said, we want them to remain in the center. They drafted emails. They sent letters. They were sent to the leadership of both organizations. There were phone calls. It was flat out to sit there in that Frederick News Post article and flat out lie and say that their wishes were not ignored. And they want to make the argument as a gift to Platoon. So let's do a logic test, okay?
Okay.
These things weigh probably upwards of 1,000 pounds.
Right.
You have to build a special platform to put them up if you do it outside. Why would Platoon get them with no place to put them?
It doesn't make sense. And where are they now? Like, where are they even
I don't know
storing
anymore.
them?
To my understanding, they're in a metal fabrication shop.
They
But
better not be cutting them down or something, man.
but why would we get them with no place to put them? The logic makes it they were taken for one reason and one reason only for Mission 22, to be placed in the Veteran Services Center. Hard stop. Now, let me ask you this. If one of, knock on wood, if one of your children passed away and somebody built a memorial for them, and they promised you that memorial was going to be there for the rest of your life and long after you're gone, so that your child's name would never be forgotten. And then over petty differences between two organizations, I break the promise that was made to you and I tear the memorial down. Even if it is to move it somewhere. which I think Platoon has been gone for about a year. They're still not
Yeah.
at, right?
Hmm.
Now all of a sudden they're supposed to be going to platoon pastures. Well, you guys have had platoon pastures for a while. Why haven't we put it up? And you're going to take you. I told the family I'll send the plaque back to you.
What are they going to
So,
do with it?
so
I mean,
if that
I
were
have a
you,
lot of questions. I have
but
a lot of
if
questions,
that were
but
you, if that were
mhm,
you, if any of the listeners are out there and that happened to your child's memorial, what would you say? What would you say?
I would say a lot. I know that I'd be saying a lot.
Who would be there? And so rather than just coming out and going, we shouldn't have done it, giving the silhouettes back,
Right.
letting them be put back where they're supposed to be. You clearly don't care about Adam and Tyler because you took them off your website. So you're
Hmm.
a veteran nonprofit that began, maybe they think they've evolved beyond that, I don't know, but you began to combat veteran suicide. You removed the two names of the veterans that were the reason the organization started. And then you try to say that this was never dedicated to them. This was never about them. It was never in their likeness. And on the actual plaque, if you would go in the metal fabrication shop and look, it says it very plainly. It was dedicated for those two service members. And so for me, as a veteran, as a father, as the man that made the promise, and I made that promise in front of at least 90% of those board members. I made it in front of Caleb. I made it in front of Nikki. They saw the speech. They before I printed it, before I gave the speech, they heard the speech when I gave the speech. The silhouettes belong in the Veterans Services Center. Hard stop. Again, I don't care what Platoon thinks about me. I don't care what Platoon thinks about Reforge. I don't care what Platoon thinks about Goodwill. And honestly, I don't care what either of those organizations think about Platoon. I don't care what anybody thinks about any of the organizations. What I care about is there are two families that were made a promise to, and that promise was broken after they already lost their children. And it's complete horseshit. And I'll die on that hill and I'll say it to anybody's face that has any type of issue on it because there are no sides to the story. There are the facts of what happened. Hard stop. That's it.
I couldn't agree more. I mean, I was at the memorial before it was taken down, seeing the statues in that room, how powerful it was for them to be gone, to see that wall with literally an outline on the wall of where the statues were taken makes me emotional. It makes me almost tear up just thinking about it because what a dishonor, you know? So I don't know. I think that that was so well said, and I hope that we can get some answers by posting this. I hope that it maybe pushes some people to ask some hard questions, put some spotlight on Platoon. Where are the statues? If they're in a metal fabrication shop, what are your plans with them, and what's going on, and why aren't they being delivered back to the VSC where they belong?
100%.
So, yeah. All right, Danny. I think that's it for me today. I really appreciate your time and your passion for veterans. I appreciate your passion for, speaking the truth and being real. Is there anything else you want to say before we get off here today?
Hey, just, at the end of the day, one of the things I've learned over the last few years, I had if you've ever done 22 push-ups for 22, the man who started that had his nonprofit taken from him as well. And, I see a lot of people out there that say that they want to honor veterans, but the truth is when they get down to it and they see how veterans actually are and how this is a broad generality, but how veterans typically are interact with each other, their worldviews, the way we speak and way we talk. Um, we're not corporate enough for everybody. And then all of a sudden, well, you can't take us to the next level, even though in multiple instances, those are the guys that get veteran center deals done. Tim will tell you straight up, the only reason they signed the veterans deal was because they saw the passion and things that we had. And you should absolutely get involved with veteran organizations. You should absolutely help veteran nonprofits. But after 9 years, 8, 9 years operating in that space, what I highly encourage you to do before you give your money, before you give your time, is ask the pertinent questions, ask what is being done. And listen, a lot of folks love to hang their hat on uh, every penny or 99 cents out of every dollar goes to goes to our services. If that's true,
Right.
you're not going to do much
No.
because a nonprofit, America is one of the only places that calls it a nonprofit. Most other places call it a NGO, a non-government organization. But at the end of the day, a nonprofit is a business. They have to pay marketing, they have to pay rent, they have to pay employees. So they have all the overhead that comes with the business. They just have this negative um, stereotype with it that they're not supposed to be profitable. If the nonprofit doesn't make money as an entity, that nonprofit will not exist. It's
Right.
no different than any other thing. So it's not about, oh no, 100% of every dollar. No, your impact is gonna be so limited in there. But
Mhm.
what we should be able to see is what are the actual numbers of veterans that you're helping? What are the actual programs that you're putting out? Are we getting different veterans in these programs all the time? A lot of times we're seeing a lot of the same numbers. It's just the same vets going through the process over and over again. Um, what is the vision for the future? What is the purpose? What do you guys actually stand for? Where did you come from? Is that history still present or have you guys removed it? All of these things are important questions people should ask when working with nonprofits, and those nonprofits should be forthright and bringing that stuff and happy to answer any of those questions. Um,
It's a good point. I just talked to Diane Fouché, who's running for county executive on my show the other day, and we were talking about this because I was like, who makes these nonprofits accountable? Like, if you're donating money, unless you go and actually do the research yourself as a donor, there really is no way to know for sure if you're
Correct.
donating to a good cause or not. Not calling out nonprofits. I know there's a lot of awesome nonprofits out there and a lot of people doing great things for veterans specifically, but I think in this scenario, in this situation, there's enough questions brought up at this point. I think people should be looking at Platoon 22 with a microscope. And if you're donating money, I think you should really ask some hard questions. It might not be fun, but I think you do need to start doing that to make them accountable at this point. So,
100. Yep.
all right. Well,
All
thank
right.
you so much. I know
Thanks,
that
Ed. I
haters gonna
appreciate it.
hate, haters gonna ain't, and we just got to keep fighting the good fight. So, thanks for everything you do in the community, Danny.